Honestly, this is how I think about reparations. Every other group who has been disenfranchised primarily by race or skin color have received reparations except for black people in the United States. Every other group. Native Americans, for the forced removal off their land, received reparations when they headed west after they got there. Now, we could talk about the fact that that land that they got wasn't as great as it should have been. The land didn't perk. We could talk about those details if you're interested. But they got quite a bit of money when they moved west. Japanese Americans for internment during World War II got reparations. Was it 4 decades later? It was, but they got it. Jewish Americans, Jewish Europeans got reparations from the Holocaust. It's one of the reasons as to why they were able to move to different countries and essentially start over. It wasn't just about starting over. It was also about having a large chunk of money that was federally funded to do that. Black people were promised 40 acres and a mule. Never got it. Where did the 40 acres and a mule come from? Well, when originally, early 1600s, when Africans and Europeans were brought to the United States, they were indentured servants. They were supposed to serve 7 years, and then they were supposed to be given their freedom. Well, they started realizing how profitable it was to have free labor. Duh, free labor is one of the things that built the United States, hence why racism is a pillar. So part of thinking about that is the fact that whites got their indentured servitude and got their freedom, and they essentially got that 40 acres and a mule. That's where it comes from. And then when slavery ended, black people were supposed to get that. And then politicians were like, wait, hold on, hold on. We about to give 40 acres and a mule to the only people who know how to actually farm? I don't think we should do that, right? So during Reconstruction, that was one of the things that got pulled back. Then black people got screwed again during World War II with the New Deal, because you had blacks and whites fighting in World War II together. They didn't get GI Bill money when they came back. This is part of the reason why HBCUs are created today. It's actually amazing how many HBCUs sustain themselves, because they were not built to sustain themselves like that. They were just simply built to allow black World War II veterans be able to go to school, because they couldn't come to places like University of Maryland. Hence the reason why Perrin Mitchell couldn't come here. Hence the reason why we don't have a Supreme Court justice, because Thurgood Marshall had to go to Howard instead of here. And hence the reason now why Byrd Stadium right behind us doesn't have that name on it anymore. It's because of racism in our particular area, where Maryland was one of the largest states dealing with crops and dealing with slaves. Then let's just fast forward even more, because it's part of a continuum. Then now you have police killings basically at an all-time high, and now you have people in those local communities paying taxpayer money for civil payouts for those people in their own community getting killed. It's a continuum. You can't separate it. So part of when we talk about reparations, one of the arguments people make is, oh, well, it's too far, it's been too long, or we don't exactly know who to give it to. That's bullcrap. Because when we look at reparations throughout in history, reparations were rarely given immediately. They took decades to happen. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that people need individual payouts, even though I think we could have that conversation. But based on the way that segregation operates in our society, there could be resources allocated for certain communities that start to transform those communities. And we have examples of this, like the Harlem Children's Zone in New York. That was basically money that was dumped from organizations and other sorts of things. They've literally changed that community in Harlem. That could be done all around the country. If people want to do something about the South Side of Chicago, dump money into it. Give people equitable education. Give people jobs. If you actually want to do something about crime in Chicago. But see, the problem is, it has to go back to the question that if racism was an original pillar of the United States, a lot of people are invested in that pillar still being there. Hence the reason why black people haven't gotten reparations. And we just have to acknowledge which groups have received it and which groups haven't. Y'all got me riled up today. I need to, on election day.